Daily Ticker is brought to you by Pelican Brewing. Visit pelicanbrewing.com for more details on locations, events, and award-winning beers independently brewed since 1996. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach. And we're trying to get our good buddy Travis Demers on the horn here. He said he's having phone issues.
No, geez. Well, you know what? Sometimes the phone just doesn't work.
I understand. So we'll give him.
It happens.
We'll give him our number here. See if we can't. He's texting me, so hopefully he's calling in. Oh, we got him. There he is. We have figured out the phone issues, which is always fun and exciting here. But pleased to have joining us here in the Ticker, the play-by-play radio voice of your Portland Trailblazers, the one, the only, our good friend Travis Demers. Good morning.
What's up, Swag? How you doing?
We are good. We are good. It's a producer's edition here. Dirt and Sprague, just the minute the draft was over, they bailed. And so I got Will Ortner, I got Schultze in here with me on a Friday, having a good time, wrapping up a 2-day NBA draft. And before we dive into what the Blazers now, what the next step is for them into free agency and summer league, what was I don't know if you've how many people you talked to within the organization, how did they think the 2-day draft went?
It sounds like the returns are pretty good on it. It's interesting because as I'm watching things yesterday, I thought it was a terrible idea. Like, why are we doing this, right? You know, nobody's paying attention to the second round of the draft. It's not like the NFL where you have all these second-round picks, third-round picks that are going to make a big difference. It doesn't happen in the NBA. And most of the players being drafted yesterday, nobody had ever heard of them. What I liked about it, though, was the fact that we got done a little earlier on draft night. You know, instead of being there till 11 o'clock, 11:30, we're getting out of there at 9:30. And I think because so much of it is focused on the East Coast, I think a lot of folks liked that. So my initial thought was we're not going to see this again, but now I think we might.
Well, probably. The one thing I have, is there any discussion, how can the NBA do what the NFL does? When we have a trade, we can announce it beforehand. I know verifying that the trade makes sense under the collective bargaining agreement is you can't just look at it and give it an okay. But is there any way so we can stop having everybody put on the wrong hat when everybody knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Really, I mean, you mentioned it. The CBA is where that comes into play because you can't trade players until in certain situations you can't trade players until it's their rights and it's not the pick. So you can't trade the pick before because of the rule that you can't trade the pick in back-to-back years. You have to have situations where it's a proposed trade, and then once it's the player's rights, then they can be traded. And that's really what a lot of it comes down to is, like you said, the CBA. So until something like that gets fixed, and until the rule where you can't trade your first round pick in back-to-back years exists, it doesn't exist anymore. Then it has to be that way. Can they tweak it and do something like where once the draft begins, that counts the same, just word it differently? Probably, but I don't know that we're going to see that anytime soon.
Travis, the Blazers took one guy in this draft, obviously the UConn big man, Donovan Clingan. Where do you see him fitting in with this team? Is this a guy that early on in his career is going to need to come off the bench while they develop him? Is there a chance we see him and DeAndre Ayton in a Twin Towers type situation in the starting lineup? What do you think the Blazers are going to get out of Clingan?
Well, I think he comes off the bench to start. I mean, look, he's a center. He's not a four. He can't play four. Neither can DeAndre Ayton. So the idea of having those guys on the floor together, I'm sure it'll happen. They're going to try everything. The good thing about where the Blazers are right now is they can try everything, and they can figure out what works, what doesn't, experiment with things. I'm sure there will be guys out or injuries or this or that, and have to come up with some creative things, and they will. So I think there will be some times that we do see both Clingan and Ayton on the floor together. You also still have Robert Williams III and need to figure that out. So today he's the third center on the depth chart right now. He's not going to immediately come in and take the starting spot. And for him, there is a learning curve with most bigs. Not everybody's Wemby. Not everybody's Chet Holmgren that can come in and play right away and have that kind of an impact right away. So it might be a little slower to come along for him. And that was kind of the idea going in with this draft, is that whoever you were going to get, it was not going to be an immediate fix. It was not going to be an immediate, franchise savior. So I think everybody is expecting things to go a little slower with Clingan, and they're totally fine with that because they have the time.
Chatting here with Travis Demers, Blazers radio play-by-play man. Deni Avdija, you've probably seen more of him than most Blazer fans, calling games and trekking out there to D.C. This is somebody that I think, based on what we've read, what we've heard, might be a plug-and-play guy at 3 or 4. The big question comes if Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant are still on the roster when we start the season. Shaedon, Scoot, Avdija, Simons, Grant, who might be the odd guy out, or do you expect to see a rotation initially to start the season in the starting 5?
Well, I think you look at who's on the roster today, and that's all I can do right now.
Right.
Look who's on the roster today.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I would expect something along the lines of, Scoot, Simons, Avdija, Grant, and DeAndre Ayton to be the starting 5. Could they mix some things up? Yeah, but the plan is for Scoot to be the starting point guard of the future, and he's got to get out there and be in those situations. He was better when he came off the bench last year. He was a better player when he was not in the starting lineup, and then late in the season when he got some more run, things are starting to come together for him. But that's the hard part is, if you have Scoot and Shaedon that are absolutely in the future, and Joe Cronin has talked about that we're going to build around these guys, and you have to figure what Ant's role is going to be. You still put Ant in the starting lineup, though. And is there a log jam or there's some things that could get tricky? Yeah, there are. But I think Avdija right now is your starting 3. With his size at 6'9", he is a good two-way player. He can shoot the 3. He can get to the rim. And I have seen him a bit, but I also don't watch a whole lot of Wizards games outside of the 2 that the Blazers play them every year.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody would. So I haven't seen him a ton, but I've been doing a lot of reading about him, and the one thing that I've read and I've heard from some fans and from some other people that look at his breakout year last year and say, well, what if it was just him being a good player on a bad team? Because we've seen that, volume situation and, guys getting minutes and run that they normally wouldn't, Delano Banton last year, things like that. The word out of D.C. is that the reason he had that jump last year, obviously there's talent and things like that, but he was put in a much better position last year. His first couple of years in the league, they kind of sat him out there as a 3-and-D guy, and that's not what he is. Mm-hmm. He can shoot the 3, he can play defense, but he's a slasher. He's very athletic. He can get to the rim. He can be a secondary or tertiary ball handler and playmaker, and he's much more versatile than being just a 3-and-D guy. And with that, he popped this year. It was year 4 for him. He popped, and he's 23 years old and finally got a little bit more freedom offensively to move around, and that changed his game. So you see him jump up to 15 points, 7-8 rebounds, 3-4 assists. He's shooting almost 40% from 3, over 50% from the floor. I mean, a lot of really good things there. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to step in and immediately do those things in Portland, because he's not going to be the first option. He's not going to be the second option, depending on what the roster looks like. But if he is, a high-level role player that can do a lot of different things, I think it's exactly what you're looking for out of him. And plus, his contract is, I don't know the last time I saw a team-friendly contract like that. Year 4, he's making about $11 million. That's going to be less than the mid-level exception by the time that rolls around.
Should Blazer fans be on the lookout for that log jam getting cleared up with Simons, Scoot, and Shaedon in the offseason? Or do you think that there's a chance we go into the season with all 3 of those players still on the roster, and maybe Cronin looks for a move with one of those 3 later on when maybe he can get a better deal near the trade deadline?
I think there's always a chance of both of those things happening. And you talk about a logjam. Yeah, there is a little bit in terms of being a starter. But at the same time right now, that's your guard rotation. Yes, Matisse Thybulle can play some two guard. A couple other guys can as well, based on versatility and things like that. But that's your three guard rotation. So while it might look like there's a logjam in terms of starters, those are your three guards. Malcolm Brogdon's not on the roster anymore. So you've got 48 minutes in two positions right now to kind of filter through those three guys. So I don't know that there necessarily is a logjam. And the issue that the Blazers have had in the past is they've just had too many guards. It's not the issue anymore. That guard stock is down to three, maybe four if Thybulle's playing the two guard or some of the other guys. But really at this point, there's not much of a logjam. It's just who's going to start, who's going to finish, who's going to play when. In terms of, when will they make a deal, I think Joe Cronin has showed that he's going to be patient. And right now that's what this team needs. Last year at the trade deadline, I know a lot of fans were frustrated that the Blazers didn't trade Malcolm Brogdon. Well, the market at the time was, 2 second-round picks. So would you rather have 2 second-round picks, or would you rather have Malcolm Brogdon and his presence around for the rest of the season? And they obviously showed you what their choice was. So they're not going to make a deal just to make a deal. And the good thing is they don't have to do that right now. So if they are going to do something, if the right deal comes around between now and October 1st, yeah, they'll make that deal. But I think Joe Cronin is also very comfortable going into camp with things just as they are right now, waiting for the right situation to pop.
Wrapping things up here, Travis Demers, our guest, radio play-by-play voice of your Portland Trailblazers. So this is a little inside baseball, one play-by-play guy to another. You bring in Avdija, you've got Clingan. At what point do you start contemplating your calls, nicknames on a big dunk, a huge three, a blocked shot, or are you just waiting one, hoping you get the pronunciations down so it's natural, and you'll let it go in the heat of the moment?
You know me, Swag, and I am not the kind of guy who's going to force things in that sound awkward, because I cringe when I hear other play-by-play announcers do that. As someone who was a Yankee fan my whole life and listened to a lot of John Sterling, and I love John Sterling, when you try and force that stuff in, it just makes you cringe, man. So for me, I like things to come up organically. There are a couple of things here and there that I've thought up ahead of time. I have thought about Clingan, not quite Avdija yet. I saw one that when he locks up a guy defensively in DC, they called it. They said they put him in the Deni Avdija. So maybe I'll break that out, something like that. But yeah, I try not to force it. I've got some ideas. I had a really good one lined up ready to go last year for a scoop to shade and lob dunk, but we didn't get one the entire season. So I'm still sitting on that.
All right. Well, we will look forward to that. Are you going to be going down to Summer League, or do you get to hang out with the family a little bit more and then dial it up for training camp?
Yeah, no Summer League this year for me. I'll be watching it on TV, and more time with the kids since I'm gone so much during the season. Just trying to get as much time with them as I can now. And then at the end of September, beginning of October, going to ramp things up. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what this roster looks like, how things play out, and see things kind of finally start to take shape in terms of a direction and a core.
Yeah, and that was the big thing I came away with, too. I think I can see Joe Cronin's direction. There's still certainly questions to be had, and obviously there's the whole Chauncey Billups situation, which we'll deal with at another time to see what may come forth in that. But that might be the oddest situation if nothing gets done going into the season. But we will talk to you about that in September. We appreciate you getting up early. I know you got little ones, so you were up, but
yes.
Holding down, getting some breakfast and some cartoons going for them, and joining us here. Have a great summer, my friend. Hopefully we will catch up soon, and we look forward to the season coming up.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for thinking of me, and I'm going to get back to watching Paw Patrol and eating Trader Joe's French toast.
What a perfect Friday morning in the summer. The great Travis Demers, everyone. Thanks, Travis. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Thank you.
There you go. Travis Demers joining us in the Daily Ticker once again, brought to you by Pelican Brewing. Visit pelicanbrewing.com for more details on locations, events, and award-winning beers independently brewed since 1996. Pelican Brewing, born at the beach.